Hey, hello. My name is Quatechiacreates, and you are watching Quatechiacreates. My baby, my Valentine. Girl, you there making the temperature rise. Hello, besties. So today we are going to be working on a design that was inspired by Mary J. Blige's outfit that she wore for the Super Bowl performance. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, like that would make an amazing design on a tumbler. So here we are. let's jump into the video. So we'll be starting with our prep tumbler. Our tumbler has been sanded, it's been cleaned, and it has been spray painted silver because we'll be using silver glitter as our base. Today we will be using Mod Podge to apply our glitter, and any Mod Podge will work. Well, maybe not any, because apparently there's a lot of different Mod Podges, but it doesn't matter if it's gloss, matte, hard coat, that type of stuff. Now when it comes to like fabric and satin and puzzle Mod Podge, I don't know about those. I'm assuming they probably would work though, but hey, don't hold me to that. I am using the gloss. I'm using gloss. Once you've gotten a thin, even coat of Mod Podge on your tumbler, you can go ahead and apply your fine glitter. The glitter that I'm using right now was a glitter that was purchased from Walmart. I initially chose this bottle because I have so many silver glitters. I chose this kind because I was like, oh, I'm just going to use the cheap stuff because it's not really going to show on my tumbler. But oh my gosh, y'all, how beautiful is this silver? It really did shock me. So I actually, I really love this silver. And that goes to show you that you don't have to spend a whole lot of money for pretty glitter. If you'll recall, I mentioned in a previous video that when I use the Mod Podge method, I like to use 2 coats of glitter, 2 layers of glitter. First, I like to go in with a fine glitter, and then I'll do a chunky glitter on top. After we finish glittering our base layer of glitter, we are going to tap off the excess using whatever we can find. Right now I'm using a paintbrush, and then I eventually pick up a pair of scissors, whatever it takes to knock off some of that extra glitter. Once it is dry, we are going to take a hard bristle brush and we are going to actually sweep over our layer of glitter to knock off all of the glitter that did not stick in that first layer with the Mod Podge. This is a very important step that you do not want to skip when you are using the Mod Podge method. So now we're ready for our second layer of glitter, and we are going to go in with our layer of Mod Podge. We're going to get that all over. It's going to take a little more Mod Podge than the first layer because now it's got to soak through the glitter, of course, and we're also going to have more working time. Not that we'll necessarily need it, but it's also going to take longer to dry. For this layer of glitter, we will be using Promise from Glitterful. Glitterful is a glitter company that is based out of North Carolina. So I like to order from them, especially when I need something quickly, because I know they're in North Carolina and shipping is going to be pretty fast because I'm also in North Carolina. Once you finish glittering using these chunky glitter, you want to take your complete tumbler, or being that this tumbler is completely coated in chunky glitter, that's why I'm taking some parchment paper or wax paper and rolling the tumbler completely in it and smoothing it out as I go, just to help lay that glitter flat. We do this so that it'll be easier when we go to get a smooth finish when we're applying our epoxy. Once our tumbler is dry, we are going to mix equal parts of epoxy, or whatever type of epoxy you're using. You're going to follow your manufacturer instructions. I am using CCDIY medium viscosity, and it is mixed in a ratio of 1:1. So I am using, for this 20-ounce tumbler, I'm using about 30 ounces of epoxy. So I have mixed 15 mLs of part A and 15 mLs of part B, and I have mixed it for at least 3 minutes. After mixing the epoxy, I like to let the epoxy sit for at least 3 to 5 or more minutes to help the bubbles, micro bubbles, rise to the top. And then I usually use my heat gun. After you apply your epoxy, you want to let your turner spin for about 6 hours. What I like to do is give my tumblers a coat of epoxy at night, sometime probably between 9 and 10 o'clock at night, and then I will recoat them about 7 o'clock the following morning. So I also wanted to note that I do use a heat gun, sometimes a propane torch, after I apply my epoxy. I don't always use it, but with this silver glitter and it was kind of cold, so the epoxy doesn't move as easily when it's really cold outside. So that's why I will often come in with my heat gun. It helps pop bubbles and it helps also get the epoxy moving so that it can self-level as it's supposed to. I use a Wagner heat gun that I purchased off of Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link down below. After we've allowed our tumbler to cure for at least 24 hours, we are going to come in with our sanding. I like to start with my rim, and I use a Dremel to expose a thin piece of stainless steel at the top. When I'm doing this design, the Peekaboo design, I expose a little more than I typically would because that's going to be covered up with paint. So I'm going to do a third layer of epoxy before applying my decals. So I want to go ahead and sand the remainder of my tumbler. Sanding the tumbler creates a surface that's more acceptable for the next layer of epoxy to stick to. Now I could have chosen to just simply recoat my tumbler after the 8 hours, 12-hour mark, but I decided to go ahead and sand it because it was still pretty bumpy, to be quite honest. So I went ahead and sanded it to help decrease the amount of epoxy I would need to get that smooth surface that I'm looking for before I'm able to apply my decals. So as you can see, I like to scuff my tumblers up pretty good. I'm not gentle when it comes to sanding at all, but I like to make sure that I have at least 2 layers of epoxy and that my glitter is completely covered before I go in with my aggressive sanding. Once the sanding is complete, we want to go in and clean our tumbler off. I go inside and clean mine with warm water and dish detergent. I use Dawn dish soap. And after that, we come in with our third layer of epoxy. After applying this layer of epoxy, we are going to go in with our heat gun and we're going to use it to help pop some of the micro bubbles that are present, and also just heat our epoxy up a little bit to keep it moving while it levels out. After this layer of epoxy, I allowed my tumbler to cure for about 24 hours before I came in to apply my decals. This decal, Queens Inspired Queens, is one that I designed myself. I just thought that it was very fitting for this tumbler. So for this step of the process, I would suggest that you use removable vinyl when you're applying your decals, because the removable vinyl is easier to remove. I use permanent vinyl and I have the hardest time removing my vinyl, and I knew that I should be using removable vinyl for this step, but I didn't have any removable vinyl. I don't usually keep removable vinyl, to be quite honest. So I was using this permanent vinyl in a color that I don't use on my tumblers. Ideally, when you get to this step in the process, you want to be applying these decals to a very smooth surface because you're going to be applying paint on top of it, and if you have bumps and blemishes on your surface, the paint is going to tell it all. So what I would suggest doing is try to put the decals on your blemishes, because when you remove the vinyl, then it'll still show through the glitter, and then you can, continue epoxying over that so that it will be smooth and blemish free. After applying your decals, you can go right into spray painting your tumbler. This is what my tumbler looked like after spray coating it with 1 coat of the Rust-Oleum 2x flat white spray paint. After your spray paint has had time to dry, you can now come in and remove your decals. Before you spray paint your tumbler, you want to make sure, or even before you apply your decals, you want to make sure that your tumbler is smooth consistently. Like, the entire tumbler has to be smooth. If it is not smooth, once you put that spray paint down, like, it is going to tell on you. And as you can see in some of the clips of me removing my my decals, that there's like little, I guess, like divots, that's, I'm gonna call it little divots in the spray paint. And what that is those spots just didn't fill in well with the epoxy. So I should have did another layer of epoxy for a total of at least 4 layers of epoxy before putting my decals down and before spray painting my tumbler. So if you happen to run into this issue while you are doing or creating your tumbler, if that's a deal breaker for you, or if this is for a customer, I would suggest that you wipe off the spray paint, and you can do that with acetone. You can do that with acetone and a cloth, and I would just suggest that you completely wipe off your spray paint layer, and then you can go in and readjust your decals. Sorry. You can readjust your decals and try to place your decals like on top of those spots if you can find them. If not, take all the decals off, put another layer of epoxy down, and then just start over. Put another layer of epoxy, let it cure for like 24 hours, then come in with your decals, then come in with your spray paint. In my case, I don't really care because this is going to be a personal tumbler for me. So that's not going to be a deal breaker for me. After you've removed all of your decals, you are ready to apply your next layer of epoxy. And in this layer of epoxy, I am going to sprinkle a little bit of Glitterful's Snow Day in the epoxy and smooth it onto my tumbler. After we apply this layer of epoxy to our tumbler, we are going to let it spin for about 6 to 8 hours. And then after that, we're going to come in and recoat it with another layer of epoxy without the added glitter. And we are going to let that spin for another 6 to 8 hours. And this is what she looked like when she was all done. I love, love, love this. Queens inspire queens. It is something that I live by. That's why I've created this channel, because I'm looking to inspire other people to do what I do and create and live a life that you love and inspire others to do the same. You guys, thank you so much for watching my video. If you have any questions, be sure to get down in my comment section. I am pretty active down there. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notifications so that you can be notified every time I post a new video. I do post 2 new videos every week, so if you want to stay in the know, like I said, make sure you are subscribed and that you have clicked that notification bell. That is it for now. Until the next time, bye-bye.